Okay, so, um, you suggested we do a deep dive into Laszlo Polgar's Raise Into Genius.
Yeah.
Clearly, you're hoping to unlock some serious potential, right?
Yeah.
Maybe for yourself or someone you care about.
Exactly.
I mean, who wouldn't want a proven framework for that?
Right. It's like the holy grail of personal development,
Totally.
But what's really interesting to me about Polgar is that he didn't just, like write a theoretical book.
Right.
He lived it. Right. He raised his three daughters to be chess prodigies.
Yeah.
So this guy is all about action. And that's what we're all about here on Actionable Reads.
Exactly. So let's jump right in and dive into Chapter 1,
Okay.
Mysteries of Pedagogical Experiments. Right?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
here, Polgar kind of throws down the gauntlet and claims that genius equals labor plus luck.
Hmm.
Now, he's not saying natural talent doesn't matter,
Right.
but he's saying that even Mozart had to put in the hours.
Right. That's where that's where the labor part comes in. Polgar is really arguing that consistent, focused effort is what separates, the good from the truly great. He actually conducted pedagogical experiments with his daughters as like the subjects to really test his theories about nurturing genius, which I think is
That's fascinating. That's
Yeah.
kind of a radical idea, isn't it?
yeah.
But he backs it up with this incredible quote.
Yeah.
Every healthy child is born with enough general endowment that from them can come a high-level personality.
Mm.
It's like he's saying we've been underestimating human potential all along.
He totally is.
Yeah.
And in chapter 2,
Right.
education is also possible this way. He kind of takes aim at traditional schooling.
Okay.
He's arguing it stifles talent by, prioritizing rigid structure over individual potential.
Interesting.
Yeah, he calls traditional learning
Oh, wow.
a painful, tedious, spirit and soul confounding experience.
Wow.
So he paints a pretty bleak picture. But then, like he's got to offer a solution,
Right.
right? And so his solution is transform work into a form of active rest.
Okay, so that's where his focus on the ages of 3 to 6
Exactly.
as a critical learning period comes in.
Yeah, he believed that these years are like fertile ground and we need to plant the right seeds.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But how do we make learning engaging for a toddler, right? Like Polgar says, by incorporating play and purpose. It can't just be, rote memorization.
Yeah.
It needs to be fun and relevant to the child's world.
Okay, so we've got this foundation of effort and early learning.
Yeah.
But where does chess fit into all of this?
Right.
That's the focus of Chapter 3.
Yep.
Simply titled Chess.
So Polgar chose chess, not just because it's intellectually demanding,
Right.
but because it's such a multifaceted activity.
Yeah.
It's science, art, sport, and even, a form of communication.
Yeah.
All rolled into one.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, and he also he makes this really interesting point.
Owen.
One can teach chess only by means of love and the love of the game.
Okay, I like that.
Right. Like, think about that for a second.
Right.
It applies to anything we want to learn, right?
Yeah,
Passion can't be forced. It has to be cultivated.
absolutely.
And he gives us some practical tips for doing just that, right? So he emphasizes positive reinforcement over harsh criticism, letting kids make mistakes and learn from them.
Right.
It's about fostering a love of the process,
Yeah.
not just obsessing over results.
I think that's a really good point. I like that.
And he even throws in this unexpected tip.
Oh, yeah.
Writing about a topic helps solidify learning.
I never thought about it that way.
Right.
But it makes sense. When you have to articulate something in writing, it forces you to really understand it.
Right. It's about active engagement, not
Yeah.
just passive absorption.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
And speaking of active engagement,
Okay.
let's move on to chapter 4.
Okay.
Chess in psychology, psychology in chess.
So here, Polgar delves into the mental game of chess.
Right.
And he highlights the importance of stress management, focus, and self-discipline.
Yeah. He's basically saying that chess is like a
Right.
training ground for developing these essential life skills.
Yeah, I like that analogy.
Right.
Yeah.
And he has this really insightful quote that I think captures this idea so well.
Okay.
A good player deceives their opponent, while a bad player deceives themselves.
That's deep.
Right. Think about how often we get in our own way with negative self-talk or limiting beliefs.
Right.
It's like we're playing chess against ourselves
Right.
and sabotaging our own moves.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
I like that.
So we've got effort, early learning, the power of passion, and the mental game. But Polgar takes it a step further. He's arguing that true genius encompasses more than just, intellectual prowess.
Okay, so in Chapter 5,
Exactly.
your life should be an ethical model.
Yes.
He makes a case for moral development as a cornerstone of complete education.
Yeah, and he even introduces this concept of the moral genius.
So now you might be thinking, hold on, isn't this getting a bit preachy?
Right.
But Polgar doesn't just talk the talk. He lays out his own 10 moral principles.
He does.
And they're actually pretty insightful and actionable.
Yeah.
And they're all grounded in this central idea. Do not do to your brother, human, what is unlovable for yourself.
It's the golden rule, plain and simple.
It is, yeah. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've seen how Polgar challenges, traditional views of genius, his focus on early learning, the psychological aspects of chess, and the importance of moral values.
Yeah.
But before we move on to the implementation part, I want to pause here for a second.
Yeah.
What's resonating with you so far?
What really stands out to me is how Polgar connects all these seemingly disparate ideas.
Okay.
It's not just about IQ or talent. It's about character, mindset, and, creating an environment that fosters growth.
Yeah, he's basically saying genius is a holistic pursuit.
Yes.
Not just a narrow focus on one skill or area of knowledge.
Exactly.
But how do we translate these big ideas into concrete actions?
Right. That's the big question.
Yeah, that's what we'll explore next as we delve into Polgar's 10 moral principles and start, crafting an implementation framework based on his methods.
Yeah, I'm excited to get into that. Okay, so let's get into these 10 moral principles.
Right.
Because they're not just some, feel-good platitudes, you know what I mean?
Right.
Polgar actually used these as a framework for raising his daughters.
Yeah.
And they're surprisingly practical.
Absolutely. So he starts with lead by example.
Right. It's that, old adage, actions speak louder than words.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't preach honesty and then, cheat on your taxes.
Right. Kids see everything.
They do. They do.
Yeah.
And then he goes into hard work and continuous learning.
Right.
Polgar firmly believed that natural talent is just the starting point. You have to put in the effort.
Yeah.
And you have to be a lifelong learner.
Right, which perfectly ties into the next principle.
Okay.
Love and connection.
Okay.
Polgar believed that giving and receiving love is crucial for development.
Yeah.
Not just from family, but also from a wider community of support.
It makes you think about the importance of mentorship, right?
It did.
And surrounding yourself with people who believe in you.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, those first three I think are pretty straightforward.
Right.
But then he gets into some more social and ethical principles.
All like living in peace.
Yeah. Polgar believes in promoting peace and understanding, especially, within the family unit.
Yeah.
He saw conflict as a distraction from growth and development.
And then you have fighting prejudice.
Right.
This one's so relevant today, and it ties back to that idea of leading by example.
Right.
Yeah. Kids learn prejudice from the adults around them.
It's true.
If we want to raise a generation that embraces diversity,
right,
we have to model that behavior ourselves.
Absolutely.
And then there's harmony within the family.
Okay.
Polgar believed that a strong, supportive family unit was essential for a child's well-being.
I mean, that's interesting because he applied this to his own family.
Yeah.
Even though their lifestyle was anything but conventional.
Right. Totally.
Right.
Yeah. He and his wife dedicated their lives to their daughter's chess education. It was a huge commitment, but it clearly paid off.
It did. It did.
Okay, so now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of ethics with the next principle.
Okay.
Honesty and trustworthiness.
This one's, that's non-negotiable, right?
It is.
That's the foundation.
It's the foundation of any healthy relationship.
Right.
Personal or professional.
Exactly. And Polgar believed that integrity was paramount.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And finally, we have courage and perseverance.
Right.
Polgar believed that life inevitably throws challenges our way.
Yeah.
And we need to develop the resilience to face them head on.
It's that classic grit factor that we hear so much about these days.
It is, yeah.
Totally.
Okay, so we've got these 10 principles. They're solid, they're good.
Yeah.
But they're still pretty abstract.
They are, yeah.
How do we actually put them into practice?
Right, that's the actionable reads part.
Exactly, exactly. So let's shift gears and start building an implementation framework based on Polgar's ideas.
Let's do it.
Okay, we'll start with some immediate actions you can take today.
Yeah.
Then create like a 30-day plan, and finally we'll tackle some common obstacles and solutions.
Okay, sounds good. So immediate actions.
Yeah. What's one thing our listeners can do right now?
Right now?
Yeah, to apply Polgar's principles to their lives.
I'd say the first step is to choose one principle that resonates with you the most.
Okay.
You know, don't try to tackle all 10 at once.
Right.
Start small.
Simple.
Yeah, and focus on making like a tangible change in one area.
Okay, so let's say someone chooses hard work and continuous learning.
Okay.
What would an immediate action look like for them?
Well, it could be as simple as, setting aside 30 minutes today to learn something new.
Okay.
Read an article, watch a TED Talk, listen to a podcast, anything that, expands your knowledge base.
And remember Polgar's tip about writing.
Oh, yeah.
Take some notes.
Yeah.
Jot down your key takeaways. Or even write a short blog post about what you learned.
Right.
It'll help solidify the information.
Totally, exactly.
Okay, so we've got that first immediate action. What's another one that would be applicable to most people?
Okay.
Regardless of which principle they choose.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I think it's important to identify your why.
Okay.
Yeah. Polgar was incredibly driven because he believed in his mission to prove that anyone could achieve genius level abilities.
So what's your driving force?
Yeah.
What are you passionate about?
Right. Connect to that deeper purpose.
Yeah.
And it will fuel your actions.
I like that. It's like setting your internal compass.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now let's move on to creating a 30-day plan.
Okay.
We want to give our listeners a framework that they can follow to make consistent progress.
Right. So day one is all about choosing your principle and identifying your why.
Right.
What about day two? Where do we go from there?
Day two is about setting a specific, measurable goal related to your chosen principle. Don't be vague. Make it something you can track and quantify.
So, for example, if your principle is honesty and trustworthiness, your goal might be to practice radical honesty in all your interactions for 30 days.
Exactly.
Or if it's hard work and continuous learning, your goal could be to read for 30 minutes every day for a month.
Exactly. And don't forget to break that goal down into smaller daily actions. Polgar believed in consistency.
Yeah.
So aim for something you can do every single day, even if it's just for a few minutes.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a principle, a goal, and daily actions. What else do we need to include in our 30-day plan?
We need to build an accountability.
Okay.
Polgar had his wife as his partner in this grand experiment.
Yeah.
Find someone you can share your progress with, whether it's a friend, a mentor, or even an online community.
Good point. And remember, it's not about perfection. It's about progress.
It is.
There will be days when you slip up.
Oh, yeah.
And that's okay.
Totally.
Just get back on track as soon as possible.
Right. So we've got a solid 30-day plan.
We do.
But what about those inevitable obstacles that life throws our way?
Yeah. How can we help our listeners anticipate and overcome those challenges?
That's a great question.
Yeah. Let's dive into some common obstacles and solutions.
Okay.
What's like the biggest hurdle people typically face when trying to implement a new plan?
I'd say it's time management.
Yeah, that's a big one.
We're all so busy.
We are.
And it's easy to let personal growth slip to the bottom of the priority list.
True, but Polgar would argue that if it's important to you, you'll make the time.
You will.
It might mean waking up an hour earlier, cutting back on social media, or delegating tasks.
Yeah, it's about being intentional with your time and energy.
Exactly. Okay, so we've tackled time management.
Oh.
What about motivation?
Oh, motivation. Yeah.
How do we stay motivated when the initial excitement wears off?
Well, Polgar believed that passion was key.
Yeah.
He chose chess because he loved it. And that love fueled his efforts.
Right. So if you're finding yourself losing steam, reconnect to your why.
Exactly. And remember those small wins we talked about?
Yeah.
Celebrate them.
Yes.
Every step forward, no matter how small, is a victory.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, we've covered time and motivation.
Okay.
What about the fear of failure?
Oh, the fear of failure.
That can be a major roadblock for a lot of people.
For sure. But Polgar would say that, failure is just feedback.
Go.
It's an opportunity to learn and adjust course.
Right.
Don't be afraid to make mistakes.
I love that it's about embracing the process.
Yes.
Not just the outcome.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got a plan for tackling those obstacles.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up this implementation section,
okay,
I want to address something you mentioned earlier. The idea that Polgar's approach can be applied to any area of life.
Right.
Do you have any examples of how people have used his methods to achieve success in fields other than chess?
Absolutely. I've seen people use his principles to excel in music, art, business, even parenting.
Really?
Yeah, it's really about taking those core concepts
Okay.
and adapting them to your own unique situation.
So if you're feeling inspired to unlock your own potential or to help your kids reach new heights,
Yeah.
I encourage you to, dive deeper into Polgar's book.
Absolutely.
There's a wealth of wisdom there.
There is.
Waiting to be discovered.
And remember, genius isn't some magical quality that some people have and others don't.
Yeah.
It's something we can all cultivate with a dedicated effort and the right approach.
I love that. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Laszlo Polgar's fascinating work.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep learning.
Keep growing.
Keep growing. And keep striving for your full potential. So let's shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
And talk about some real-world examples of Polgar's principles in action. You mentioned seeing people applying these ideas, beyond chess.
Right.
Could you share a specific case study that illustrates this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I recently worked with a musician
who was
incredibly talented, but struggling with performance anxiety.
Oh, okay.
And we incorporated Polgar's principle of transforming work into active rest by, reframing practice sessions as playful explorations rather than stressful tests.
So instead of just drilling scales endlessly, this musician started improvising and experimenting.
Exactly.
With different sounds and styles.
Exactly. And we also used the writing to solidify learning technique.
Oh, yeah.
So the musician started journaling about their musical journey, analyzing their performances and reflecting on their emotional state.
Wow. I can see how that would be incredibly powerful, right?
Yeah.
For building self-awareness and addressing, those performance anxieties.
It was.
Yeah.
And the results were incredible.
Oh, wow.
The musician not only improved their technical skills, but also gained this newfound confidence on stage.
Wow, that's a great example of how Polgar's principles can be adapted to different fields, right? It's not about replicating his exact methods, but rather extracting the underlying principles and applying them creatively.
Exactly.
And speaking of creative application, I think it's important to remember that Polgar's, journey wasn't without its challenges, right?
Right.
He faced criticism and skepticism along the way.
He did.
But he persevered.
He did.
Because he believed in his vision.
Absolutely. And that's a valuable lesson for all of us, right?
It is.
There will always be naysayers and doubters.
Right.
But if you're convinced of your path, don't let them derail you.
That's right. And remember, Polgar's experiment was unique to his family and his goals. Right. You don't have to raise chess prodigies to apply his principles.
No, absolutely not.
It's about finding what works for you and adapting his methods to your own context.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Raise a Genius, what are some key takeaways our listeners can walk away with?
So I think the biggest takeaway is that genius is not predetermined.
Okay.
It's something we can cultivate through dedicated effort, the right mindset, and a supportive environment.
And don't forget the importance of starting early.
Oh, yeah, that's huge.
Right.
Yeah.
Polgar believed that the ages of 3 to 6 are crucial for learning, but it's never too late.
Never too late.
To embrace a growth mindset.
Right.
And start developing your potential.
Exactly. And remember those 10 moral principles.
Yes.
They're not just about being a good person. They're a framework for living a fulfilling and impactful life.
I like that a lot. So if you're feeling inspired
Yeah.
to unlock your own potential, or to help your kids reach new heights,
Yeah.
I highly recommend,
Absolutely.
diving deeper into Polgar's book.
That's a great book.
You can find it on our website, along with, a bunch of other resources, including like a downloadable worksheet for creating your own 30-day action plan.
I love it.
And don't forget to join our online community,
Right.
where you can connect with other action takers, share your progress, and get support along the way.
It's a great community.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Into Laszlo Polgar's fascinating work.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing.
Keep growing.
And keep striving for your full potential.